podcast. Thank you for tuning in as always. Just one quick request. Pause the show. Wait. Scratch that. Don't pause the show yet. After I say this, pause the show and then go do something and then come back and press play. But I need you to share the show with a friend. That means you can either send this episode now, send an episode from the past that you really liked, or just send them the Instagram or Facebook page, whatever you want to do, but just share one of our platforms. Now I'll give you about 3 seconds to go do it. I'm just kidding. You can press pause and go do it. But whatever the case may be, just share the show, people. But as always, thank you. I'm glad to be back here. How you doing, Dad?
I'm doing good. Looking forward to today's show. Well, you know what? You just ended the season, right?
Yeah, I did a couple weeks ago.
Okay, but this is fresh for this show right now. So let's go into a little bit about your season. How did it feel this season?
This was a great year for me. I think it allowed me to grow a lot in a lot of different areas of life. So we had a pretty unique coaching dynamic this year. So for my last 3 seasons, I was the assistant. This year I had to take on more of a head coaching role. And I think it worked pretty seamlessly. Me and Coach Dev were both at all the practices, but based on his schedule this year, he couldn't make the game, so I had to hold down the fort at the games. And it was a big step. Not because I was worried about being the head coach or anything, because I felt like for the last couple of years I have been doing that anyway, especially in my second and third year as an assistant. Because one thing that I thank Dev for is that when he would ask me for my input, even when I was sitting in that seat, he actually really considered it. And at times, we built the relationship to where I could be like, yo, Dev, this is what we need to do. This is what we need to do now. And he'd be like, all right, let's do it. Or, I'm in the timeout drawing something up, and he never minded it. I think when you play for a guy, you kind of have similar mindsets with things. So it kind of becomes pretty seamless, and, we kind of have the same mindset in regards to a lot of things on the court, right? And so it's very easy to, no matter who's there, who's leading at a point in time, it's probably going to be like the same message. Maybe a little different, because we're different people. Like I have different strategies. For instance, like timeouts, I'm more of the Phil Jackson school of thought, where I like my players to try to figure it out on the court. And then if they need that ultimate, all right, I've had enough, I'll call it. But, it's like different things like that. But for the most part, I think it was a great year and allowing me to really step up. And I had to go through some trials and tribulations. You have some refs at times try me because I'm younger. They try to treat me like I'm one of the players. And it's like, no. It's not going to happen here. Nice try, buddy. But also I think it just allowed me to, really, I guess I won't say that, but I was able to have a great impact on, a lot of guys on our team, really, connecting with them. And I think that's really going to help them going forward in life.
Well, let's go back to the beginning of the season, or preparation when you knew you was getting ready to go into the season. And I know that you are a goal-oriented people. So what goals did you have set to really go into the season?
Going into the season, I think, so my goals one of them is always to help guys develop off the court, right? Like I want them to do well in class so that they can play the full season, and hopefully that trend continues. Also, it's a hard goal to kind of put specifics on, but I want guys to take steps in their personal development, which, I can definitely say for several guys, it maybe even exceeded my expectation. As far as like on the court, we had an interesting year. We had, only 4 returning guys, and then one of those guys ended up transferring, so we really only had 3. So, any given night, we had 12 guys where it was their first year on our team. And for most of them, I would say it's probably their first year playing, organized basketball. They might play in some rec leagues and stuff, but with this much structure under the big lights, it was a first year. And so that's a struggle. So a lot of people, I didn't know how far we were going to go. The goal is definitely to make it to the postseason, which we did. But, I loved our guys because I didn't find this out until maybe late in the season, like the last 2 weeks. But prior to the start of the season, a lot of people were telling our boys, like, y'all not going to win a single game this year. I think it was people in the school, out of school. So they really had that chip on their shoulder. So I think that, they used that as fire and motivation. So, I tip my hat off to them for that. Then also, I just want to teach guys the game. That's something that I also look forward to doing each year. That's like one of my goals. If someone walks away with a higher basketball IQ to go along with a better skill set, I'm happy.
One of my things, and what I like what you said too, was like when you talk about helping kids off the court. See, like I always remember my college coach always saying, I'm not going to prepare you to make the pros. I'm going to prepare you to deal with life. So, and I think another good thing about that is like when you can relate to kids that want to play basketball, and what he did to me to help me was like, use basketball to teach about life.
Mm-hmm.
So like when during this season, you think, did you achieve some of that too with players? Do you think players grew up a little bit?
Oh yeah, like I got one of my favorite guys that I've coached the last 3 years. On his senior night, right? He, we honored the seniors at halftime. Mind you, we're down like 4 at halftime, and I'm walking back to the bench with him, and he's just like, Kev, yo, thank you for all you've done for me and things like that. And I had to like hold back some tears in this moment just because of how much I've seen this guy grow, right? And it's he went from being a guy who I thought I would have to throw off the team just because he would almost pull the team down. Like he was always the guy, the mood killer, just because he was a distraction. And he became one of the biggest leaders, biggest voices. And, I'm excited to see, what he's going to do, after high school. And I got another kid who he has some of his struggles. But I was really able to connect with this kid. And, I know that I know how he probably gets treated by different staff members in the school and stuff because it's a different environment. But, I thought this one kid was going to be one of the hardest guys to coach just because he seemed like he'd be a loose cannon at times. But no, he's one of the easiest kids to deal with. And, like, although he's huge and, gets very emotional and, can have these outbursts, it's always easy to get him to calm down. The guy would just, a lot of my players are bigger than me. I'm grabbing him, looking up like, bro, I just need you to listen for 1 second. This is what I need you to do. Like, it's okay. And, he would just always calm down. And, he might struggle the first 3 quarters, right? But he might wake up in that fourth. But, I also was able to have conversations with him about, off the court. Just about how to carry yourself, how people are probably, with certain people, out of ignorance assume about you. And, having those real life discussions, I think is, one of the more fun parts of the job too. Sometimes it's good to take a break from basketball conversations and have life conversations with guys.
Well, like this season, like you said, you did more coaching this year than before. Like, being out front in games, I guess you still had to help in practice with you and Coach Dev. Still was there in practice together?
Yeah.
Right. But how did it feel coaching the games? But, being there really coaching the games on your own.
Oh, man, it was an interesting feeling. So I did have some assistants. Like, Devin helped out a lot when she could. One of my former teammates would come to all the games. One of my former players would come to a lot of the games. So they were there, to talking to guys for me. But as far as like scheme and on the, during game calls, really you just gotta really trust what you do. That's one thing I learned. If you trust the preparation you put in, if you trust doing the things you work on day in and day out, ultimately that's what you're gonna live and die by. So if you work on, the simple things that win you games, like whatever your defensive strategy is, if you work on executing that in practice so that you can do it in games, you're going to live and die on that. If you work on boxing out, you're going to live and die on that. If you work on, a particular press, like you getting a win is going to be decided on doing it. So it's not like, even though, you're calling things, it's really coming from you, it's like you're comfortable and confident because you can do it. Now it gets frustrating when, guys aren't performing the way you anticipate. But I think that, as a whole, being in that seat, I was very comfortable and confident. Even when we would be down, like we had games where we were down like 27, came back, took the lead, unfortunately ended up leaving by 4. Even in our playoff game, end of the first quarter was 17-4. We lost that game by 1 point, and we had a shot to win it at the end, right? I wish guys might have didn't commit some undisciplined fouls to where we could have pressed them for, a lot longer and a lot earlier in the game to really turn the tides earlier. But we did what we had to do, and I think that, just overall, just having like those moments like that, like even when other teams, like when we're down 17-4, like sometimes I won't say I don't get nervous because I'm like, it's like, what do we got to do? But I always go back to what you used to say. Your college coach used to wish he could do what? Cover the scoreboard, right?
Right.
So I find when the going gets tough in games or we're not scoring points, I just stop looking at the scoreboard and I just coach possession by possession. Then before you know it, I look up, I'm like, oh, we only down 6 now? Give me the board. Give me the board. We about to get a great look here. So I just go into that mode. And I think that's something that really helps me because now I'm not thinking about, win or lose. I'm just coaching at this point. And I think that's probably one of the most exciting and interesting parts of it all, really.
So, what do you really try to teach your players?
As far as what?
As far as like through basketball. What you try to get them to do on the court and off the court.
So I think that, on the court, the biggest thing is one of our 3 pillars, and it's discipline. I like a very disciplined, strategic, methodical game, right? So, offensively, I want us to take great shots. I want us to execute our sets because everything we got in the playbook is designed to get us easy looks, right?
Right.
So now, let's flip that. Let's go to defense now. Defense, I don't like us reaching. I don't like us, leaving our feet trying to block shots, and especially if you're not a shot blocker. Like we only had 1 shot blocker this year, and that's fine. Everybody else, like, stay down, take a charge. We have a higher likelihood of getting a stop, taking a charge than we would, jumping, challenging a shot and pitting them on the free throw line, right? So discipline is something, I try to teach day in and day out in practice and in games because that's something that you can directly carry off the court. If you can be disciplined in what you do on the court, it's going to be easy once you understand that concept to be disciplined off the court. So if you're looking at your schoolwork, it's like, hey, after school, I don't need to go play around. Let me just go home, knock out this homework, study, do what I need to do so that, I can do well on this test so I can stay eligible, or I can just put myself in a good position for college or whatever I want to do afterwards. So, I think when you're disciplined, you ultimately make better decisions, which is what we need these guys to do off the court, right? To be able to really assess, in a day by day, situation by situation, moment by moment, choice by choice, like how can I get them to think through and make the right decision, even when you only might have a split second to make it.
Man, I love that answer. That's something that like I really wanted to do, and I really believe in that. Discipline is great. How was motivating? How do you really get them up for the games?
Yeah, it's funny because so back when I was an assistant, right, there was like one season where um, Dev would kind of get to the game right at like the start.
Right.
So I was with the guys pregame. This might have been my first year coaching, and I used to listen to a lot of motivational speeches and stuff, for my own, benefit. But then I started listening to them because I was like, yo, I got to figure out what I'm going to say to these boys to get them pumped up, right? And so, I feel like I don't even give rah-rah speeches anymore. Like it's just like, yo, this what we going to do. We know what we got to do. We got a job to do. Let's go in here, cook them, get back on a bus, and we out this gym. But, I don't know. So, like, before games, I'm just always talking to them about the importance of doing what we need to do and being the best that we can be, right? So, one of my pet peeves is when a team kind of just goes through the motions in pregame warm-ups, right? Like, with my guys, they know my expectation is you better be drenched in sweat when that horn goes off for jump ball, especially if you're a guy coming off the bench. Because that's your only chance to get loose, and you need that. You need to, get as loose as you can so you stay warm as long as you can until your number's called. That's something I ain't learned until I got to college, right? Like in high school, I was starting, so I wanted to be ready to go anyway. But when you coming off the bench, boy, you gotta try to be warmed up. So you keep the shooting shirt on, the sweats, whatever you gotta do, so you hold in some heat a little bit longer, But I tell them like, yo, from the moment we either step off the bus, or if I meet them at the school on a home game, I'm like, yo, let's get locked in now. So I think they know I'm a guy that's about getting the job done and I'm about handling my business. So I think they just latch on to that. And when I need to, give a rah-rah speech, I will. Or when I need to, check them on some things and give them that perspective, I don't hesitate to do it. But a lot of times I think it's just about, trying to transfer that mindset to them so that you don't need to give a rah-rah speech. Like, nobody has to give Kobe a rah-rah speech, right? He just walk in there and be like, yo, we going to get this W and we on to the next one, right? So I think, that's always kind of been my mentality. So I try to teach them that's how they should be. Like, never walk into a gym. I always get nervous when, especially in high school, when they're too comfortable, right? You got guys laughing and stuff before a game. I'm like, yo, it's so funny. Like, you don't know what they got waiting for us at this gym. They might have found a kid in the school that's 6'9" now and can play all five. Like, you don't know. Like, so you got to be mentally prepared and locked into doing, the things we work on day in and day out.
So another thing, like I like to ask you was, you went into the season. Did you have any expectations
As far as what?
of what you wanted to accomplish?
Are you talking about the goals again?
No, I'm not asking. I'm saying the goals. I mean, did you have expectations? Like what you want? Well, it's similar like goal, but I mean, did you like wanted to win this many games, or did you wanted to help people learn so much?
You know what our record was at the end of the season?
What was it?
I don't know. I don't think about how many number of wins I want to win. My goal is to win every game, right? So as far as an expectation, my expectation is that we put out the best product that we can every game, right? So that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting guys to come in ready to work, ready to learn, and, just ready to give their all, because that's all I can ask for, right? I can't ask for you to, go from being a kid off the street to Akeem Olajuwon in one season, right? All I can ask for you, though, is to give 120% every day, because, you're going to inevitably make gains if you put in the effort. So those are the things I expect.
Okay.
We try to do our best day in and day out, and that you kind of want to be there, and that you're willing to be uncomfortable so that you can progress.
Did you think that your players reach that or exceed that?
Yeah, I think a lot of them did, and once they know you're not going to kind of let them slack up, they ultimately do it. Like, I got one kid, he was a center for our team, He started out as, we'll call him third or fourth string, because we didn't know where he was going to be at. This kid needed a lot of work, right? He was big, probably the most massive player we had, but we couldn't play him because he lacked the skill, right? And, what I love most about this kid is, if I had to give someone a most improved award, it would probably be him. Like, even towards the end of the season, he didn't play huge minutes, but he got our starting center a blow, right, when he would need to, or if he was in foul trouble. And this is a kid who would catch the ball, right? And because he had never played, organized basketball where, you probably had to position him down on the block and things like that, you could tell every time he caught the ball, he was uncomfortable. So either he would just, throw it up at the court or just throw it back to a player. The player could be this far apart, and he's, throwing this hard pass. And, we just took the beginning of one practice, and all I taught him, power dribble drop step, right? Or just power dribble into the guy jump hook. And you know what he started doing every time he caught the ball?
What?
Power dribble drop step or power dribble jump hook, right? And each time, he would catch the ball, even if he was crowded, I would see him moving his leg, trying to make that space so that he can do his move. And, that's all I can ask for. So even in games if he was missing the layups and stuff, I would have to get him out of there if he was missing the layups, because I'm like, I need you to make those, man. I need you to put him on the square. But the fact that he would do what he was taught and show that improvement, I'm like, that's all I could ever ask for. Guys getting mad at him, I'm like, relax. I'm like, relax, man. He's doing his best right now. And that's all I can ask for as a coach. Just do your best.
It's funny because, when I was incarcerated, I didn't want to coach, and I got involved with coaching some. Then I even had to take players that was on the team. Now, these grown men, though. Mm-hmm. But some never really played basketball. And it's funny that you would say that, because it was a guy that couldn't do nothing. So days I would go to the gym with him and throw the ball into him and show him how to pivot. He started killing the people. So, the reason why I kind of was asking you about what did you expect to get out of your player, because I wanted to know, did you achieve that? Did the player, for me, I would want my players, to play 40 minutes. Y'all only play 32 minutes. So I would want them to play hard for 32 minutes.
Oh, yeah, that was the thing. That's what I preached most of our games. I'm like, we need 32 minutes of perfection, right? Because a lot of the times when you look at, we should have blown a lot more teams out this year, but we would have lapses where we didn't execute our defensive strategy, or we got lazy boxing out, so you give the other team extra possessions, little things like that. So where we should have won by 20, maybe we only won by 4 or 5 or 6. Or a game that we should have won, maybe we lost, but it was all because we kept giving up dribble penetration, right? So it's little things. So I told them, for 32 minutes, I need you to lock in. And that was the biggest thing. And, going back to your last thing about, expectations and guys getting better. I feel like there's always going to be some guys that kind of don't meet that expectation or don't progress the way you want them to. And, you just got to keep pushing them. So I got one guy, a guard, I thought he was going to have a real breakout season. Didn't end up having it. But I think one thing he has to learn is to push himself, right? So, if you're weak in one area and it's going to ultimately start impacting your playing time in games, you got to make yourself vulnerable in practice. So, the only way to become a great defender is to work at it, right? So you can do drills and stuff all day, but when you're in practice, you got to put yourself in an uncomfortable position. I think the best thing Coach Antoine did for me in learning how to play defense is making me basically get in a guy's jersey, right? Because you used to kind of playing, giving guys cushions, kind of sliding and being there. But he made me be in your jersey. So what did that do ultimately? That mean I had to move my feet, right? I didn't know I was quick enough to do all this at the time. I had to move my feet. I couldn't reach, right? And so whereas we'd be in our half court offense, I'd be picking guys up full court. But that's because I made myself vulnerable in practice. And I was guarding Lil Eddie was shifty. He had all the dribble moves, right? So I was like, this is gonna be a challenge. Now I was a little bit bigger than them, so I could kind of use that to my advantage. But it got to a point where I just was able to kind of slide and beat guys at spots, right? But that came from being on an island, which a lot of times you don't like. And even before that year, where Coach Antoine had me doing that as a senior, I was guarding guys that put up, close to 500 points in a season in practice. So really, as a freshman, sophomore, I couldn't stop those guys. But the fact that I was trying, in the long run, it made me that much better. So that's what I try to teach guys. And I'm like, yo, if you're struggling with something, you got to work at it. That you can't just show up and, especially during the season, it's hard. You got to find times outside of practice times where you can actually work on skill. And if it is something like, on-ball defense, you got to say, hey, I'm gonna get this guy all I got. Even if I'm getting beat up in here, he's getting by me. And at least I know next time because eventually you're going to start to pick up something. You're going to learn about yourself. You're going to learn your speed, your ability, and how to play guys. So you just got to make yourself vulnerable so you can get better.
Yeah, that's the thing. So evidently you had a good year, right? Coaching. Don't you think? You think that you had a good year?
I had some fun moment too. Like I'll say, one highlight was senior night.
Yeah.
Because we were playing a team that had lost 10 straight, right? We were on like a 3-game losing streak as well, though. They were coming into our gym, and we got off to a good start. But then tides returned. I told you we were down 4 at halftime, right? And guys really turned it on in that second half. Like to whereas one of our senior guards, my guy Khalil, he wanted to win that game so badly, and it showed. He went into Westbrook mode where this guy was just like flying in out of nowhere, getting rebounds, offensive rebounds off his own free throw. Like he wanted it, right? Like making plays, dropping dimes, hitting big shots down the stretch. And, one of the biggest things, I talk about our starting center, right? He's a football guy, very strong. He's like raw, though, because his first year playing ball, And this kid's, like, super athletic, and Khalil goes to get the rebound, knocks Shamir out of the way. Like, Shamir goes sliding from under the basket out to the sideline just because how bad he wanted it. But that game, everybody played, like even our freshmen. Like we should have got the minutes earlier in the season,
right?
But we could never figure out how to blow teams out to get them some minutes. So they got in, and the whole bench went nuts when I sent them to the table for that last, 30 seconds or whatever it was. So it was just a great experience. And then, one of my other highlights, right, was it was an interesting moment. So we came out of timeout, right? I told our guys, I'm like, listen, we're in 100. That means full court, man. Guys are on the other side of half court. Like back as if we're in our half court defense. And so I'm like yelling from the sideline. No one's responding because we came out like slow this game for some reason. So I'm trying to get a timeout before the ball gets in. The ball gets inbounded. I'm still calling for the timeout. Mind you, we're on defense, right? They give me a timeout, then I'm informed afterwards, like, yeah, coach, it's technical foul because you called timeout when we didn't have the ball, right? So he informs me it's a tech, and then
they gave you a tech.
Yeah, because he got charged a tech to the bench
for how in timeout.
Yeah, I called the timeout.
I'm not understanding this. You can call timeout, but the referee got to call the timeout.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm not understanding how they're going to give you a tech for something like that.
I don't know. And then the crazy thing is, because the tech went to me, I had to sit the rest of the game. That's a rule that needs to change. Yeah, I guess in our league, whenever a coach is given a tech, you got to sit. Because, it's probably for, like, unruly coach. Like, if a coach is berating a referee, they give him a tech. So then it's like, sit down, because what they call it, sportsmanship, and interscholastic competition. But it's probably more so for technicals like that. So I thought mine should have been different. My guys fought back. We were down this is the game we were down like 27. Took the lead by 4 and ended up losing at the end. But just the fact that we fought back and we did it with me from my seat. Like I couldn't walk the sideline
Wow,
or anything. I just thought that was like a funny moment.
I think that kind of rule is messed up because you know what? I mean, you got to deal with the rules that's there. But you know what? You know sometimes psychological, you might need to get a tech to motivate your team.
Oh yeah, and they came out and they played. They after that it was on because when I called the timeout, I lit them up because I'm like, listen, we just came out of the huddle. I said we was in 100 and y'all all were back, so they already knew I was hot, right? And it's just always funny too because they laugh at me because I mess with refs and like as the season went on, I mess with them more and more, and it gets to the point where there's like this one ref where he definitely discriminates against me because of my age, and I know for a fact, like at first I thought it was a racial thing, but then I noticed when we went to this other gym and it's a coach that's been around for a while, you got to have the captains and coaches thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're there and the other coach is setting up for like their senior night, and then he goes, "Oh, he's fine. He's heard this before," as if this is my first time in the effing circle. I'm like, and so have I, and so I wish. Like, if that ever happens again, I'm going to know exactly how to handle it. It's going to be like, no, either you have him come over here or I'm excusing myself right now. Because, like, it's going to be an even playing field. And this ref, I really hope he never gets any of our games again. But he's one of those guys that can never be wrong, right? So, he's also the guy that gave us, like, 8 delay of game warnings that game. He's a stickler about a lot of things, like making the kids, like, their undershirts had to be the same color as the uniform, even though they all had on black underneath. Like, he's a stickler about some things, but he didn't make his man come into the circle, right? So, he's in his own little world. And, there were like 2 calls one game where this really showed me his true colors, and this was the second time we had him. So, early in the game, there's a jump ball, right? Our team gets the jump ball. And then as soon as the ball comes in, there's like another jump ball somehow, right? And it goes to the other team. Later on in that quarter, there's a third jump ball. It should go back to us, right?
Right.
He was giving it to White. So I'm yelling because he was yelling at one of my assistants because my assistant didn't realize it was 2 jump balls, right? So he thought it was just our ball. He's like, no, there were 2 jump balls. The first one went to blue. The second one went to white. That was on the second one, right? So the third one, he giving the ball to White again. I'm like, bro, you was over here arguing with my assistant that the last one went to white because the first one went to blue. Like, it's blue ball now. Then he's always like, I'm not going to argue with you. And this is the guy who I shared about approached me on the bench that game.
Right.
And told me to drop it. I'm like, bro, you came over here. Like, I'm not, like, you need to walk away now. And then there was another play in that game where, our guy tipped it. Other team didn't touch it and went out of bounds. The other ref came in to overrule, be like, yo, that was definitely off blue. He's like, unless you got a second deflection, it's white ball. It's blue ball. He was like, yeah, I got a second deflection. Dude was running, his hands was down. That was definitely out on my player. But I was like, he always won from that jump ball situation in the front. But it's like dealing with guys like that. And, sometimes you got to put on a little show when you're dealing with these guys. You got to get fiery. And sometimes it just comes out naturally. Then, I got the bench holding me back. Like, I got players, my assistants trying to grab me back. And I keep going to them. They laugh because I'm always like, I'm cool. Like,
no, yeah.
It's all for the official. And so they mess with me in practice and after games. Just like Kev's favorite line is, I'm cool.
I know that you have a passion for basketball completely. But you know what? What would you rather do at your age right now? Would you rather? I know you're always going to play right now. You're going to play. But do you like to really coach or would you rather play?
Is money involved in this equation?
Let's do it for the love. What would you love doing?
I love playing. Like, I love getting out there and competing. Like, I'm looking forward to getting back to it after the season. But let's just say if I had an opportunity to coach and it would pay me the same as what I make in my 9 to 5, well, I might be out. Like, if the dollar's right, I would coach just because it's something I'm passionate about. It gives me an opportunity to invest in young men, or if it happened to be young women, but also being around a game that I love. I would do it in a heartbeat.
See, that's the answer I was hoping that you would say. And I asked that reason because, like, just like we doing here to help somebody, it gotta really feel good to help somebody. Like, I remember I used to love playing on the court and I love doing something. But you know what? I also like to coach or like to coach because, like, you know what? I find myself coaching even now. You know, it's funny, like, when I say that because I got people that I work around on the job sometimes and they come to me for like life situations or things like that, and there's a few people that be asking me, so I'm still trying kind of coaching.
Yeah.
So you know, like I'm saying, in life, I still would do that. Now, for me, you know, I don't want to get on the basketball court no more.
And especially if you got a lineup across from me.
Yeah, well, that might put me on the court though. But you know, that was one of the things
Put you in the
that like
hospital.
what take me to the hospital.
I said that's gonna put you in the hospital. Where it's
Okay.
gonna put you.
Okay. So so since the season is over in coaching, you coached this year. Do you like I said, like one of the things was like I mean you look good on the court coaching when I came to your game. I heard Dave the other day after he came to the senior game, and he said like you look like a natural man. You real I mean you really do. You have the poise and everything of being a look of being a good coach, man. And
Thanks.
I know you have the smartness because it's in you. It's just like I think that you focus on anything that you do. So like you know, just keep doing it and doing it. So like I know, did it really feel good being at them? Like I'm saying, did it really feel good if you could be like the head coach and then
Yeah.
being an assistant coach?
Yeah, it was a fun experience, and I think as you're saying, being in that head coaching seat, there's a lot that keeps you up at night. There's always I used to get this as an assistant too, just because I think that's one thing that even helped me for this past season is that when I was the assistant, I would almost take more responsibility for a loss than Dev, or I would try to, because I'm just like I know he has a lot of things going on in his head. I always felt like if we lost, it was something I didn't see. Like my job is to see everything he doesn't see. So, you know, kind of fast forward to this past year, and being in that head coaching spot, it's like identifying things and really you really have you juggle a lot, like a rotation. Then you might have your go-to rotation, but one guy might be dealing with something off the court you have no idea about, and now he's playing kind of funky out on the floor, or he doesn't look confident. Like there's a lot of different things, so you're figuring out all this stuff, and meanwhile the clock's running because the game's going on, and it's a lot. But I mean it's a fun experience, and when you think about figuring things out, it's a challenge, and that's why I think you know like you said, like I want to be the best I can at it. So I'm constantly, when I have the opportunity to, I'll scout teams. I'll study different things just because the more I can teach, the better equipped our guys are going to be and the more prepared. So I'm always trying to go into games over prepared, just so I'm ready for whatever. I got my coaching cheat sheet with all our sets, different rotations I got in mind, different things I might want to try. And so it was a fun experience. And, I always look at head coaches I've had in the past all throughout my years of playing basketball. And it was just a great feeling to feel what it actually is like to be in that position.
You know, one of the things that you said earlier too was like when you played for Deb, you coach with Deb. So like you normally that's what you learn. So normally that's some of the styles that you gonna do. But do you now put more of your like since you was out front? Do you put more of your style into it now?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of, even when I was coaching alongside of them, I did. We kind of had we have the different, like, our big picture is the same,
Right.
but
Right.
sometimes, we have our own little nuances and things we like to do. So I definitely think I have my own spin on it. And I think I take a lot of different things from a lot of different coaches that I've had in the past.
Well, that's what I think that you should do. Even when I played basketball, like when we was talking about playing basketball, and like when we were talking about Kobe or something like that, you try me. I had not one favorite player or one player I tried to mold myself at. I tried to take something from all different players that would fit into my game or my style. I don't know if you do that, and the same way like that, it's the same way in coaching. Different strategies, or when you can learn something. It's not that easy because you don't. You got to use the difference from all your coaches. I think and like, and sometimes we talk about like coaches. Like, the other day we were talking about basketball, and then we got to talk about coaches. How like the coaches that I had, I think was very good coaches. And then, like, I think the coaches, like, you know what? It's like you said, it's not just about teaching them basketball. Like you saying about coming out, like when you said expectation of winning a certain amount of games. Because, like, you know what? You can get lucky, or just say you could win a lot of games, but then you could lose your players to the streets.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite movies is Coach Carter.
Yeah, so my former player that helped us out this year.
Yeah.
That's the only movie he ever talks about when he's in the gym. He's like, if I coach one day, I'm gonna be like Coach Carter. And so he always has that perspective. But yeah, that's a big one for me too.
Yeah, I just think, because how he was, it wasn't just about basketball. Even though they win, like, and when he say, y'all came here as boys, but when y'all left as men. And that's what that's what I would want to do in a season. That would be my goal or my expectations, to try to make them grow as human beings, or as people. So, but thank you for letting me do this today, or have to question you a little bit today.
No problem. I like talking about it.
Yeah.
I could probably keep going, but the clock has to stop.
Yeah.
Are you gonna take us out of here?
No, I'm turning the show back over to you.
Oh man. All right. Appreciate y'all tuning in and listening to a little bit about this past season, because it was a big one for me. Definitely one that's monumental in, I'll call it my coaching career. But yeah, definitely was a great ride. Didn't want to see it end, and neither did the guys. But having a completely new group, I hope that, they do get in the gym over the summer and get better, because I think, I'll tell you, I do think they exceeded expectation, because when you lose, let's just call it 15, you got 15 roster spots, right? When you lose 11 guys, and then you're at tryouts, and the bulk of the guys there that are decent are juniors, it's, you really have no idea what you're getting into, right? So it's like, I thought when we were losing 11 guys going from last season to this season, then you think about what tryouts were like the year before. I think the tryouts the year before it was pretty easy to pick those 11 guys. So you knew you had the best guys in the school, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're like, there weren't any 8th graders out there that season that you thought were going to come in and be able to have an impact immediately. So it was like, what's out there? And, I will say I think overall guys exceeded expectation, because we had pieces, right? And it was up to me and Dev to put those pieces in a position that make our team successful. And I think, we kept the trend alive of making it back to the postseason. So, I tip my hat off the guys for that. And, I think our last playoff game was something that really showed who we were, right? So told you we're down 17-4, ended up losing that game by 1 point and had a shot to win it. And so, the resiliency to fight back after a horrendous start and to almost win that game was remarkable, because that same resilience that they had to show on the court, they're going to be challenged in life, and they're going to have to show that same resiliency. The second thing was, we had a chance to win the game, right? And so that team, they played a 1-3-1 in the first quarter. Then they kind of went away from it the whole game, right? So they kind of went back and forth from 2-3 to 1-2-2. And so going into our last possession, I drew up a play that would have worked against the 2-3 and the 1-2-2, right?
Right.
They came out in that 1-3-1. and our guys held their poise. Still worked. We got 3 great shot opportunities we could have taken, any one of them. We got guard dribble penetrated, drew 2, kicked it, bounced pass to the corner from like the elbow, right? So Khalil could have taken that shot in the corner, right?
Right.
Would have been a clean look. He drives baseline, gets in there. He thinks about going up, but he said he was unsure if the ref would have given him the foul because we were only down 1. So he kicks it out to my boy Dejan, who I used to play with his brother Jaquan back when I was in high school. And Deej, carried a lot of the scoring load this year. So he kicks it out to Deej for an open wing 3, which is Deej's shot. A little bit off. But just the fact that, I told him after the game, I was like, I tip my hats off to you guys for 2 reasons. 1, you fought back. 2, in that final possession, they came out with a different look we weren't expecting, and we still had a great opportunity to win the game. Whereas usually we come out of timeouts, and there's been times where I called a full timeout, drop a play, and we come out there and don't do it. Or even earlier in that game, I drew a 1 set, and Deej didn't go to the right spot. Right? So it's like for them to come out and still say, hey, wait, this play's breaking down. Let's just play naturally. That was a joy to watch. Because looking in the stands, everybody was like, yo, coach, you got a great look at the end. And they don't know, like, yo, the play broke down. They just played basketball, based on our free motion zone offense after that. So, it was a great way. Like, a lot of guys were hurt when that game was over. But it didn't really hit me until, like, middle of the night. I rolled over, and I was like, I don't have practice tomorrow, I don't think. But, I think that loss was easier to swallow just because of the characteristics the guys displayed. Oh, I still got to take us out of here.
All right.
So, once again, thank you for tuning in to the podcast. We hope to see you again next week. And remember, if you're listening for the first time, this is available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. And also, if you haven't done so already, please follow us on Instagram at the NoStoppingKev Show, and on Facebook, type in the NoStoppingKev Show. So, family, I hope that you all have a great week, and we'll be back same time, same place next week.